The first time I ever felt like a failure. I was 10 years old and standing in the kitchen, clutching a report card like it was a live grenade. One subject. One grade. Math. C. It wasn't even a bad C. It was a high one, bordering on AB. But to my parents, that one crooked letter was enough to declare a full-blown emergency. My dad looked at it, sighed like he just got drafted into a war he didn't want, and said, "Well, we expected more." My mom didn't say anything. She just walked over to the living room, unplugged my game console, the only thing I really loved at that age, and calmly put it in her closet. No warning. No explanation. Just click. Door locked. "Until your grades improve," she said like a judge issuing a sentence. And then came the part that hurt more than the punishment, the public announcement. Within 24 hours, my aunt, my cousins, and half the church knew that I got AC in math and was falling behind. It became this thing they whispered over potluck dinners. Oh, poor Jamie. He used to be so smart. Maybe if he wasn't always playing video games. They never said it to my face. But I could feel it every time they looked at me like I was this cautionary tale. A warning to their own kids. Do your homework, or you'll end up like that. I wasn't even failing. I was just human. Meanwhile, my little sister, Lauren, was the golden egg. Perfect handwriting. Perfect hair. Perfect attendance. When she got an A- in science, my mom actually emailed the teacher to contest it, like it was a glitch in the system. "She's exceptional," my dad would brag. "She's built different." I used to joke that if Lauren sneezed, someone would rush to frame the tissue. But me? I was the family's official disappointment. The test run. The prototype with bugs. By middle school, I stopped bringing my report cards home altogether. Not because I was failing, I wasn't. I just didn't see the point. If I got straight B's, they said, "You can do better." If I got 1A, it was, "Why not all A's?" The game console never came back. I eventually bought a second-hand one with my allowance, hid it under my bed, and only played it with headphones on while they slept. It was the only time I felt like myself. Until one night, I was sneaking a session at 2 a.m. and Lauren peeked in and said, "Mom says you'll never get into college if you keep playing that." She was 9. And she wasn't wrong. I didn't get into a university. But not for the reason they think. In high school, I stopped trying to impress anyone. But I did start cooking. At first, it was out of necessity. My parents were busy, and Lauren was too precious to touch a stove. So I started playing around with grilled cheese, ramen upgrades, omelets, pancakes. I didn't even realize it was a skill, not until my best friend's mom tried one of my homemade meatball subs and straight up moaned at the dinner table. It got awkward. "You could sell these," she said, mouth full. That was the first time anyone said I was good at something that didn't involve grades or test scores. So I leaned in. I started watching cooking videos while everyone else prepped for SATs. I memorized spice pairings the way my classmates memorized formulas. My parents thought I was wasting time. But to me, it was the first time life felt flavorful. By the time I was 17, my parents had 2 modes when they talked to me. 1. Disappointment, that was the default. 2. Panic, that was reserved for when relatives asked, "So what's Jamie planning after high school?" I didn't have the heart to tell them I was planning my garlic aioli recipe, not my college essay. Every time I walked into the kitchen, it felt like a small rebellion. My dad would watch me dice onions like I was building a bomb. My mom would peek over her book and mutter, "Why don't you study this hard for math?" Because onions made me cry less, that's why. Lauren, of course, was thriving. Choir. Debate team. Honor society. National whatever club. Her calendar looked like the schedule of a small city mayor. She didn't just get praise, she got custom cakes with phrases like, "Our shining star," and "future valedictorian." I once got a store-bought brownie for passing physics. It was stale. The real kicker? Lauren hated the spotlight. She'd sigh and say, "I didn't ask for any of this," while sipping tea from a mug that said, Hashtag one daughter. Meanwhile, I was working part-time at a diner, dish pit mostly, but I lived for the slow hours when the cooks let me try my own recipes on leftover bread or scraps. Kids got hands, Chef Rico once said. That meant more to me than any parent-teacher meeting ever had. At home, my parents thought the job was temporary, something to build character, while I figured out a real career. You can't cook forever. My mom warned me once, as I basted a roast chicken that smelled so good even the dogs sat up straight. Tell that to Gordon Ramsay. I muttered under my breath. She didn't laugh. What she did do, and I'll never forget this, was print out a college brochure, circle the word business, and tape it to the fridge like a ransom note. They thought I was being difficult. I thought they were being deaf. We weren't even speaking the same language anymore. They wanted suits and degrees. I wanted sharp knives and burnt butter. Then came Lauren's early admission letter. Stanford. The house lit up like a Christmas special. Champagne. Balloons. A catered dinner. I was told to stay late at the diner that night so I wouldn't distract. When I got home, all that was left was a single cupcake in the fridge. No note, no invite, no leftovers. That was the moment I knew I was never going to be the son they wanted. So I stopped trying. 3 weeks later, I packed a bag and left. No dramatic goodbye. No shouting match. Just a folded note on the counter. Thanks for the expectations. I'll be somewhere with flavor. I crashed on my buddy Ray's couch, picked up more shifts, and enrolled in culinary school using my entire savings and a tiny scholarship I'd won for, ironically, a chili cook-off. Ray's parents were confused but supportive. You really want to chop vegetables for a living? His dad asked. I want to feed people, I said, and not feel like a failure doing it. He nodded once and never brought it up again. Culinary school was hard. It wasn't some foodie fantasy. It was 5 a.m. knife drills, burns, late nights, instructors who yelled like drill sergeants. But I never missed a day. Never skipped a prep. Never once wished I was anywhere else. My parents didn't check in. Not once. No texts. No calls. As far as they were concerned, I'd vanished into disappointment, the same way they'd always predicted I would. That silence used to hurt. Until I realized, it also meant freedom. Culinary school didn't hand out praise. If you made the perfect béarnaise, you didn't get a gold star. You got a grunt and maybe a nod from Chef Duncan, which was the culinary version of a standing ovation. If you overcooked the salmon, you'd hear it echoed for days. I once heard him scream, "This is dry enough to be legally dead." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. But weirdly, I thrived. There was something peaceful about that kind of honesty. If I messed up, I knew it immediately. If I got it right, the room stayed quiet, and that silence meant I was doing okay. It was the first place where effort actually counted. I started picking up freelance gigs, catering birthday parties, baby showers, a weird engagement dinner for 2 lawyers who hated each other but loved charcuterie. I didn't care what the event was. I was building my name one bite at a time. That's when I fell in love with plating. See, food wasn't just food to me, it was art. I didn't just want it to taste good. I wanted it to say something before it even hit your mouth. I wanted someone to look at a plate of duck confit and think, "Who made this?" The way people stare at a painting and ask who the artist is. And slowly, people started asking. By the time I was 23, I had a full-time gig under a chef who used to work in Vegas. The hours were brutal. My legs constantly felt like boiled spaghetti. My hands? Scarred and calloused. But I was in it. No one called me a disappointment there. No one asked about my GPA. They cared if the sauce was balanced, if the garnish looked alive, if the risotto made you feel something. I rented a studio apartment, small, cluttered, but mine. I hung my first paycheck on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a whisk. Lauren graduated high school around then. I didn't hear about it directly. Someone tagged her in a photo wearing a sash and holding a bouquet in front of a giant "Congrats Lauren" banner. There were sparklers, confetti, a custom balloon arch. I just stared at the screen. I wasn't surprised I wasn't invited. I just didn't expect the ache. It's weird how family can still sting even after you've stitched yourself back together. Later that summer, I catered a small wedding at this countryside vineyard. Simple, classy. 30 guests max. The bride cried over the panna cotta. Literally cried. The next day, her cousin emailed me with a subject line that just said, "Are you booked?" Turns out she worked for a high-end event company in the city. Big stuff. Corporate launches, celebrity parties, upscale galas. We met. She liked my style. Called it unexpectedly elegant. I called it doing my best not to serve beige sadness. That one meeting changed everything. I went from begging grocery stores for bulk discounts to being handed client lists with names I recognized from magazines. Suddenly, I had a team. A van. A business license. I called it Fork and Flame, simple, sharp, easy to remember. By 25, I was catering events with 200+ guests. I had signature menus, seasonal offerings, custom plating designs. But still no word from home. Not even a "congrats." Not even a "heard you're doing okay." The only thing that ever came through was the occasional Facebook tag from Lauren, mostly reposted memes, family vacation pics, or inspirational quotes like, "Families are forever. Even if they drive you crazy." Cute. One day, I got a weird inquiry from a woman named Sarah. "We're planning a graduation party for our daughter. Small family event. Just need appetizers and a buffet." Basic stuff. But the venue address made me pause. It was 15 minutes from my parents' house. I didn't connect the dots until I saw the client intake form. Graduate's name? Lauren. I blinked. Sat there for a full minute. Then slowly, a grin spread across my face. I didn't say anything. Didn't decline. Didn't call. Didn't text. I just wrote back. "We'd be honored to serve." The venue was one of those rustic chic halls, reclaimed wood beams, fairy lights, floral arches like Pinterest had thrown up in slow motion. It screamed tasteful family celebration. Perfect. I arrived 4 hours early with my crew. We were running a smooth buffet-style setup with past appetizers and a dessert table designed to look like a garden, edible flowers, sugar-dusted berries, lemon tarts and tiny glass domes. If they wanted fancy, they were gonna get Michelin-level fancy. "Yo, boss," Marcus said, peeking through the kitchen window. "That your family out there?" I didn't even have to look. I knew that voice. That laugh. That awkward half-joke my dad always made about taxes. That shrill tone my mom used when she talked to servers like they were beneath her. "Yep," I said. "That's them. They don't know, do they?" I shook my head. "Dang," he muttered. "This about to be poetic." The staff was prepped. Uniforms crisp. Timing tight. I stayed in the kitchen at first, not hiding, just waiting. Watching through the slatted doors like a director behind the curtain. Lauren was glowing. I'll give her that. Blue satin dress, honor cords, that same practiced smile from every childhood photo. She had no idea her failed sibling was orchestrating every detail down to the shade of the table linens. As guests started arriving, the compliments rolled in. "This hummus is incredible. Who made the lamb skewers? Is this lemon aioli or heaven?" Lauren beamed like she made it herself. My parents floated around, accepting compliments like they were hosting the Met Gala. I heard my mom say, "We hired the best." Then, no joke, she winked. Winked. That nearly broke me. I had to turn away before I accidentally dumped an entire tray of shrimp into the sink. By the time dinner started, I knew I had to step out eventually. I couldn't hide behind the convection oven forever. I grabbed a fresh dish towel, wiped my hands, adjusted my chef coat, and walked out like I'd done at 100 other events. Except this one? I knew every face. I walked past my uncle's smug grin. Past my cousin who once told me I'd be lucky to work at Olive Garden. Past my mom mid-sip of white wine. None of them flinched. Not even a double take. I wasn't the same Jamie they remembered. I stood taller. Carried different weight. Beard, kitchen tan, black chef's jacket embroidered with a gold fork and flame logo. To them, I was just another staff member. Until Lauren caught my eye. She blinked. Paused. Her smile wavered. Then her lips formed one word. Jamie? Everyone turned. Silence vacuumed the room. My dad squinted. My mom dropped her fork. A cherry tomato rolled off her plate and bounced across the table. I gave a polite nod. Evening, I said calmly. Hope everything's to your liking. The silence cracked like glass. My aunt actually gasped. Lauren's face went through 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion. Shock. Realization. Guilt. And something else, something like pride? I didn't know you own this? I shrugged. Didn't know you were graduating. Touché. My mom recovered first. Of course she did. You catered this? She asked, half choking. You. I smiled. Technically my team did. I just picked the menu. Dad looked like someone told him the IRS was online too. The best part? None of the guests had any clue what the tension was about. They just kept eating. Kept praising the food. Kept clinking glasses. A guy near the dessert table said, Man, whoever made this strawberry tart deserves a Nobel. I nodded. Appreciate that. My mother's jaw twitched. Lauren looked down at her plate. And I just stood there, finally full. Not with food. With peace. I didn't stick around long at the table. After the tomato roll incident and the shocked silence, I gave a small smile and slipped back through the kitchen doors like a ghost returning to his haunt. Let the food do the talking. Let the past simmer. But I could feel it. The atmosphere had changed. The guests still laughed and clinked glasses, but at the center table? A storm was brewing behind polite smiles and half-eaten lamb skewers. Lauren came looking for me first. She pushed open the kitchen door like she was afraid I'd vanish again. Hey! I glanced up. Hey! There was a long pause. This food is insane, she finally said, picking at a lemon tart with her nails. Like mind-blowing. Glad you're enjoying it. Another pause. Longer. Heavier. I didn't know you were doing all this. I didn't know you were graduating, I said, matching her tone. She looked down. I didn't invite you. Mom said it'd make things awkward. I raised an eyebrow. Well, she nailed that part. Lauren winced, but to her credit, she didn't run. I wasn't trying to. I mean, I didn't think you'd even come. I didn't. I worked. That landed. Okay, she said softly. I deserve that. She leaned against the counter, suddenly just my kid sister again, not the family favorite, not the golden girl with ribbons and speeches. Just a person who missed someone she used to bake cookies with on Saturdays. I tell people about you, you know, she said. Sometimes. Before or after they compliment your aioli? That actually got a laugh out of her. Then she got serious. I'm proud of you. I blinked. Not because I believed her, but because part of me wanted to. Before I could respond, the door burst open again. Of course. Jamie, my mom said, stepping in like she owned the kitchen. Can we talk? I motioned to my sous chef. Give us a minute. She waited until we were alone, then wasted no time. This whole thing. She started, arms crossed, voice tight. You could have told us. Told you what? That I didn't fail like you predicted? That you were catering your own sister's party? I gave a dry smile. Didn't seem like I was on the invite list. Her lips thinned. I thought you were still finding yourself. I let out a short laugh. Mom, I lost myself in that house. What I found came later. She glanced around, probably realizing for the first time that everything, every table, every bite, every flower on the cake, had my fingerprint on it. You're successful, she said finally, like it was some strange diagnosis. I'll admit that. Thank you, I said deadpan. But, she added quickly, you could have used this to reconnect. A chance to mend things. You mean sweep everything under the rug and pretend the last decade didn't happen? She flinched. We were hard on you, she said. We just wanted the best. You wanted me to be someone else. I cut in. You wanted me to be Lauren. Perfect. Predictable. Polished. She was silent for a moment. Then, quietly, we didn't know you'd turn out like this. I nodded. Yeah. Neither did I. Lauren looked between us, awkward, like a child caught between two countries negotiating a ceasefire. Will you come out? She asked. At least for dessert? I looked out the tiny round window in the kitchen door. My dad still sat at the center table, wine glass untouched. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't speaking. Just staring at his plate like it was a confession. I sighed. Yeah. Sure. Not for Mom. Not for Dad. But for Lauren. And maybe, just a little, for the version of me who once cried over a locked game console, thinking AC meant he'd never be worth anything. Back out in the hall, the lights had dimmed just slightly, soft amber glow, fairy lights overhead, little shadows dancing on the white tablecloths. People were wiping their mouths, pushing back chairs, grabbing second helpings of dessert. Someone cued a mic. A soft tap echoed. We'd like to say a few words. Of course. My mom walked up first, glass in hand, her voice shaking with fake humility and well-rehearsed pride. She opened with a quote about hard work. Something about stars and grit and how success is never handed, which was ironic, considering half of Lauren's life had been wrapped in velvet and silver spoons. Then she gestured to my dad. David has something to say too. He stood slowly, the room growing still. I watched from the kitchen archway, arms folded, expression neutral, but inside? Rage. Bitterness. A weird, sour hope. He cleared his throat. When Lauren was born, he began, I remember thinking she'd be the one to make us proud. Yup. Off to a solid start. And she did. Time and again. Straight A's. Leadership. Kindness. I glanced at Lauren, even she looked uncomfortable. But today isn't just about her achievements, he continued. It's about family. About the people who helped shape her. Her mother. Her teachers. Her friends. There was a pause. A beat. And of course, the incredible team behind tonight's dinner. That caught some attention. Guests nodded. One guy even clapped. The food was exceptional. Dad said slowly, like it cost him oxygen. Truly remarkable. Elegant, thoughtful, perfectly executed. My jaw clenched. He still hadn't said my name. Not once. No. I'm proud of my son. No. Jamie did this. Just the team. Lauren turned to him, whispering something, but he ignored it. Coward. I could have stayed silent. Could have let it pass. But something in me snapped, not anger, exactly. Just exhaustion. A lifetime of it. So I stepped out again. Walked straight to the table, cool and calm, and picked up a tray of mini eclairs like I was just another caterer doing his job. People turned. They stared. Someone whispered, Wait, isn't that? My dad's face twitched. Hi. I said to no one in particular. Just hopping off the dessert table. Lauren looked up at me, pleading with her eyes. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear. And Dad? He couldn't even look at me. As I turned to go, a voice called out from the crowd, someone I didn't know. A family friend maybe. Who is the chef anyway? I want to hire them for my son's wedding. I paused. Then turned back casually, like it was nothing. That'd be me. Silence. Fork and flame. I added. We'll leave a card at the table. The guest looked impressed. You own it? Built it from scratch, I said. Kind of like I had to do with my life. My mother's wine glass clinked a little too hard. That was enough. I walked away. But the ripple had already started. More people asked questions. More heads turned. Lauren tried to mediate. My mom tried to deflect. Dad stayed frozen, like a statue of regret carved from ego and pride. The thing about food? It reveals people. Who's grateful? Who's entitled? Who says thank you, and who pretends they cooked the whole meal? I didn't need a toast. The applause came anyway. Not loud. Not all at once. But here and there, genuine compliments. Guests walking up, shaking my hand. Calling me brilliant. Talented. A gift. All the things I never heard growing up. And none of it came from the people I once starved for approval. By the time we packed up, the sky had gone full cotton candy pink. My team worked fast, sweeping trays, boxing leftovers, loading the van like they'd done it 100 times, because they had. Normally, I'd hang back, go over receipts, make sure nothing was forgotten. This time, I stood in the parking lot for a minute, just breathing. Lauren came out first. She looked different now, a little deflated, a little older. Like the celebration high had evaporated, and all that was left was reality. "Hey," she said, softer than before. "Hey. You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. You?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Honest." I appreciated that. She kicked at a pebble on the ground. "You know, growing up, I always thought you were the strong one." I snorted. "I was literally the one crying over math homework." "Yeah." She smiled faintly. "But you left. You got out. I just stayed and got praise for things I didn't even want." That landed differently. "Did you mean what you said?" she asked. "About building your life?" I meant every word. She was quiet for a moment. "Can I come by sometime? Maybe see the kitchen?" I nodded. "You'd love the citrus room. It smells like summer threw up in there." She laughed. And then she hugged me. Out of nowhere. Real. Tight. Like she hadn't realized how much space there'd been between us until that second. When she pulled away, her eyes were glassy. "I'm proud of you. I wish I'd said it sooner. Better now than never," I said. "Seriously. Thanks." That moment alone would have been enough. But of course, fate wasn't done. As I turned to head back inside, I heard the sound I hadn't heard in years. "Jamie." "Dad." I turned. He looked tired. Smaller than I remembered. The confident man with loud opinions and sharper judgments now stood like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to speak. "I owe you an apology," he said. I waited. "For how we treated you. For not seeing it sooner." Still waiting. He looked me in the eye. "You did good. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't a speech. But it was honest. And that alone nearly cracked something in me." "Thanks," I said. He nodded and started to turn, but then added, "That woman, the one from the wedding planning firm?" She handed me this. He passed me a small envelope. Inside was the final invoice. Neatly printed. Itemized. On the bottom was a handwritten note. "Paid in full, with interest." He read it aloud. Then looked up at me. "That from you?" I shrugged. Guess someone thought it was deserved. He almost smiled. Almost. But instead, he gave a short nod and walked off. That should have been the end. But the next morning, I got a phone call. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was my mom. "Jamie. I know you're upset. I understand. But we'd like to talk. Maybe dinner? Just us. No speeches. No pressure. We just want to see you. Please call me back." I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I did. People always come back when the plate's full. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, eating leftover tarts straight from the box, and thought about it. Not the apology. Not the dinner invite. But the fact that for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't hungry for their approval anymore. A week passed before I heard from them again. No texts. No calls. Just a plain white envelope slipped under the door of the catering office. My receptionist thought it was a bill. Inside? A card. Cream-colored. Embossed. probably picked out by my mother. The front read, "Family, where life begins and love never ends." Inside, "We're sorry. Dinner's still open if you ever feel ready. Love, Mom and Dad." Taped to the bottom was a faded photo of me and Lauren, maybe 10 and 12 years old, making gingerbread cookies. Frosting on our cheeks. Me mid-laugh, flour in my hair. Her missing 2 front teeth. No second note. No long explanation. Just that. I stared at it for a while. Not angry. Not moved either. Just tired. It wasn't that I hadn't wanted this kind of sentiment growing up. I did. I used to practice entire conversations in my head, what I'd say if Dad ever admitted he was wrong. What I'd do if Mom finally hugged me without a backhanded comment first. But now I'd built something real. Not out of spite, out of survival. Out of hunger, literally and metaphorically. I slipped the card into a drawer and didn't respond. That Friday, we had another event, a small business launch. 40 guests. Nothing fancy. But the host was a former teacher of mine. "Jamie?" she gasped when I delivered a tray of canapes. "You're the owner?" I nodded, holding back a smile. "I remember your parents," she said gently. "They were intense about your grades. That's one word for it." She chuckled. "I gave you that C in math, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? You didn't flunk," she said. "You just didn't memorize formulas the way others did. But I remember your effort. The way you always stayed late. Didn't matter at home," I muttered. "They treated it like a funeral." She tilted her head. "I hope someone would notice the effort." "I'm sorry they didn't. That sat with me longer than it should have." After the event, I went home, opened the box under my bed, and pulled out the old note, the one they taped to my game console when I was 12. "Until you take life seriously, no games." Back then, it broke me. Now, I studied it like it belonged in a museum. I picked up a blade, not a chef's knife, just an X-Acto I used to slice cake boxes clean, and gently split the note down the middle. I taped one half to my fridge. The other? I mailed it back. No return address. No signature. Just a single side of paper. The half that read, "No games." Sunday afternoon, Lauren texted me a photo of Dad holding it. He looked confused. Maybe even shaken. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. Later that week, a reporter doing a piece on small business resilience asked me what kept me going during the hardest years. I paused. Thought of the late-night kitchen shifts. The takeout boxes. The frostbitten hands. The smell of yeast and sweat. The empty Christmas chairs. The missed calls I stopped returning. Then I smiled. "AC and math," I said. "And a locked game console." She laughed, thinking I was joking. I didn't correct her.